Welcome to Censored, and this reading today is from Censored number 102, and the title is The Creeping Political Cancer by William J. Eisenman. And two little reminders at the beginning of the article are from the Bible. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 21. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. 2 Thessalonians 2, 11 through 12. So you believe that George W. Bush was a man of God, and you believed him when he said God told him to invade Iraq. You believed that he was a born-again Christian, and you thought unconstitutional faith-based tax giveaways were a good thing. Well, you were had. You were snookered. Iraq has been nothing but chaos and confusion, and the God of the Bible is not the author of confusion. The devil is. Practically every policy adopted by the Bush administration was chaotic and confused. George W. Bush was not a biblical Christian, and his sops to the religious right were political handouts and examples of crony capitalism. God does not love aggressors, and where there is no vision, the people perish. Proverbs 29, verse 18. About 85% of Americans claim to be Christians, so the question is, why aren't all these Christians, or why didn't all those Christians challenge George W. Bush? They became enablers. They believed what he said and disregarded what he did. They conveniently forgot that devilish deeds masquerade as angelic deeds. There is no logic or justice. There was no logic or justice in the Bush administration. It manifested only arrogance, vindictiveness, mean-spiritedness. And these are not humble Christian qualities. In a non-Christian way, the Bush administration aligned military force and economic might. In 2003, oil and gas firms raked in $43 billion in profits, and in 2004, the figure was $68 billion. War profiteering had run rampant in Iraq. Right-wing economic laws were locked into Iraq's legal system that gave unfair advantages to U.S. corporations. This right-wing corporate globalization agenda was advanced in the guise of fighting a war on terror. The free trade agenda had become a weapon of war. The neoconservatives were trying to Americanize the world. They want to privatize everything. And Iraq was to be a model to the world. Another unchristian fact was that America is the world's is that America is the world's largest arms exporter. This kind of behavior makes the world less safe and arms dealers rich. This money could be helping we, the people. Why is it looked on as Christian to funnel money to those who already have instead of giving to those who don't? This idea cannot be found in the Bible. It is these kinds of actions that cause the United States to be hated around the world. This leads us to being less safe. George W. Bush, who claimed to be a fiscal conservative, created record deficits and involved the United States in an unnecessary war and made the United States hated around the world. He expanded the power of the presidency and deceived Congress concerning the cost of the new Medicare Part D plan. Important information that will bankrupt Medicare was withheld. George Bush's No Child Left Behind Act was a fraud. Nothing but unchristian lies came from the Bush administration. Bush even lied as to what he saw on 9/11. He said he saw a plane hit the World Trade Center tower before he entered the classroom to read My Pet Goat. But there was no TV video of the planes hitting the towers that morning. After being informed that America was under attack, Bush sat for 7 minutes in the classroom. This was a stark example to anyone who understood what was going on in the Bush administration, that Bush was just a front man. Others were in charge. Bush lied when he claimed that he put our military on alert on 9/11. Richard Myers, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, did it with no orders from Bush. Bush, as usual, was in PR mode on 9/11. The Bush administration stonewalled the congressional investigation of 9/11. In fact, 9/11 occurred because Americans naively trusted their government to protect them. Even today, right-wingers twist and wrest the idea of who is a terrorist. Today, protesters are potential terrorists. G.W. Bush believed privacy is for him and his administration, but not for we the people. Bush withheld documents and information, even from Congress, and the administration lost or destroyed evidence. Excuse me. Everything to that administration was national security or executive privilege. It was the most secretive in American history. Ballooning under Reagan, the process of placing conservative judges on the courts and conservative minions in policy positions in our social programs was worse under George W. Bush. The aim was to wither and destroy those programs and to tilt the court decisions to the right. The social safety net for the needy and we the people was at stake and still is at stake. The conservative agenda at its core is to destroy the United States government as we know it. Bush and his conservative, devilish minions believe faith-based institutions can handle all these tasks. The Great Depression proved otherwise. But the Bushite ideology is not subject to facts or reality. Bush lied when he said plans had been found in Afghanistan that had American nuclear facilities as targets. The White House lied about the mission accomplished sign on the Abraham Lincoln. The Bush administration fed lies about Iraq to Congress and we, the people. 10 days after George Bush's inauguration and 8 months before 9/11, Bush wanted an excuse to invade Iraq. Bush and his neocon minions used the United States military for their own selfish and devilish ends. Every dead and wounded soldier is on their heads. And so they wouldn't get any negative feedback from we, the people, the Bush administration prohibited the taking of photos of dead soldiers' caskets arriving at Dover Air Force Base. Maureen Dowd called the invasion of Iraq a delusion. Iraqi sovereignty is a sham. The United States had no plans to leave Iraq. America is planning to maintain 14 permanent military bases in Iraq. Iraq will be under American domination. The United States Army War College claimed the war in Iraq undermined the war against Al-Qaeda. The sad and pathetic part of all this is that George W. Bush believed he was doing the will of God. These warped religious ideas were fuel for Bush's hard-nosed intolerance and his stay the course nonsense. But Bush is our problem. His kind will go as far as we let them. The more lies and criminal behavior that we tolerate, the more abuse we will suffer. We must always push back against the bully. Most Republicans of the right-wing persuasion wear their religion on their sleeves. Many are rapture rightists who seek dominion over all civil structures. They want to conquer America for Christ. These people promote intelligent design and ridicule evolution. The Roman Catholic Church once entertained delusions that the sun revolved around the earth. Galileo saw things differently, and the Pope threatened him with the Inquisition. Galileo was put under house arrest. Pope John Paul II referred to the Galileo affair as a tragic mutual incomprehension. It wasn't that at all. It was censorship by fiat. The Roman Catholic Church was ignorant and arrogant. The church that could not err made a grave mistake. The Roman Catholic Church erred during the Crusades and the Inquisition. In Revelation 17, verse 6, it says, "The Roman Catholic Church killed the saints." During the 2000 presidential campaign, George W. Bush claimed, "I feel like God wants me to run for president. I can't explain it, but I sense my country is going to need me. Something is going to happen." Adopting Bush's frame of reference, someone wanted him to run for president, but according to his actions and all the confused and chaotic events that have occurred, it was Satan, the father of confusion, chaos, in the lie that wanted Bush to run for president. And God had nothing to do with it. If George W. Bush was a man of God, he would obey Deuteronomy 15, verse 7, where it says, "Don't close your heart to the poor, your brother. Lend him what he needs. Give him what he lacks." Also, Mark 10, verse 21 is not obeyed by Bush or his rapture right cronies. "Sell all you have and give to the poor." And then there's James 2, verses 14 through 17. "Prove your faith by supplying the needs of your brother and sister." Real faith must lead to action. Otherwise, faith is lifeless. There's also Matthew 19, verse 24, where it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, the government of God. During the presidential primary campaign, each of the Republican candidates was trying to out-God the others. John C. Danforth said, "The Republican Party is the political arm of conservative Christians. Yet all this pandering to religiosity has never guaranteed us decent, law-abiding, non-corrupt members of our government. In recent years, we have seen that those who played up their religiosity the most have been the most corrupt. Along with its lying about everything, the Bush administration was using psychological warfare on we the people, psyops. Colonel Sam Gardiner claimed that our military was deceiving us. Also, our corporate-owned media, with its kiss-ass deference to get access, is gullible about the entire business. The media has lapdog-like eaten of that propaganda and fed it to us. PSYOPs people infiltrated CNN and NPR. There is no longer any doubt that Bush and his administration have committed political acts and criminal offenses against individuals and our nation, as well as the Constitution. Bush lied to Congress and the American people when he tricked us into war in Iraq. Bush never lived up to his oath of office. He and his administration have ripped the Constitution to shreds. Bush arrogantly admitted deliberately violating the 1978 Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act by having the NSA spy on innocent Americans without warrants. Impeachment is the removal from office of any civil officer of the United States for conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Article 2, Section 4 of the United States Constitution. Impeachable crimes are political abuses of power. These offenses do not have to be violations of criminal law. Impeachment proceedings begin in the House of Representatives. The House has the power to indict, and a majority vote on any charge is needed to have a trial, which is held in the Senate. A two-thirds vote in the Senate is needed to convict. Impeachment removes the person from office, does not toss him in jail. President Ronald Reagan committed impeachable acts, but was never impeached. George W. Bush began a war of unprovoked aggression, which is a violation of the Geneva Conventions. Bush authorized torture which he renamed harsh methods. He also authorized prisons that were beyond our laws. He authorized indefinite detention, and he illegally spied on innocent Americans, and most likely political foes. Bush lied to the Congress and the American people. In his State of the Union address of January 28, 2003, Bush violated the False Statements Accountability Act of 1996. It is a felony to knowingly make false statements to Congress. Bush may have violated the 1973 War Powers Act. The Iraq War was a constitutional abuse of power, which also violated the United Nations Charter, making it an impeachable offense. Contrary to what Bush and his administration minions said, they received many warnings concerning the use of airplanes as weapons before 9/11. In July of 2001, it was known that bin Laden would commence a significant attack against the United States or Israel interests in the coming weeks. The attack would be spectacular and designed to inflict mass casualties against United States facilities and interests. The Bush administration had plenty of warning. They just had their heads up Saddam Hussein's butt. Even the presidential briefing of August 6, 2001, bin Laden determined to strike in the United States, mentioned the hijacking of planes. But Bush wasn't interested. The White House also kept the United States military Able Danger Intelligence Unit from informing the FBI as to what they knew about al-Qaeda cells in the United States and what they knew about Mohammed Atta. Colleen Raleigh was also prevented from getting a warrant to search Zacarias Moussawi's computer. Bush and Cheney have stonewalled all the questions about 9/11 and Katrina. Unfortunately, incompetence is not impeachable. But gross incompetence is if it rises to the level of criminal negligence. Can we all say Katrina? Senator Bob Graham said the Bush administration blatantly obstructed information about 9/11. Are there any but total fools who cannot see by now what was going on all these years and can now understand who is the real George W. Bush? Selected President George W. Bush must be impeached. Well, he's not going to be impeached now, but should have been impeached for 1. Obstruction of justice. 2. Violation of his oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution. 3. Jeopardized the national security in relation to 9/11 attacks and the administration's response to the attacks. 4. The White House also attacked the right to assemble, speak against the government, the right to travel freely, the right to privacy of our conversations, the right to a fair trial and to face an accuser, and the right of habeas corpus. Number 5. The White House also committed treason in outing covert CIA spy Valerie Plame Wilson. James Madison defined tyranny as the accumulation of all powers, legislative, judicial, executive, in the same hands. It's an impeachable offense. It was an impeachable offense. for George W. Bush to claim that he was a wartime president and he could do anything he wanted. He didn't have to consult with anyone or other branches of government. Bush's authorization of unconstitutional acts by federal law officers was also an impeachable offense. The leaking of covert spy Valerie Plame Wilson's name violated the Intelligence Identities Protection Act of 1982 and also the 1917 Espionage Act. The leakers committed treason. It's a fact that Dick Cheney lied concerning this case. Scooter Libby was convicted of obstruction of justice and more in that case. Knowing that that White House talked with one talking point, it can be assumed that all were in on it and all were guilty. The outing of Valerie Plame Wilson smelled of pathological vindictiveness and revenge. And when there is a cover-up, there is a crime. Traitors occupied the White House. Being a traitor is willful negligence and was an impeachable offense. Remember that George W. Bush, our play president, went golfing when the levees broke in New Orleans. This was another example of gross negligence. Wasn't that ineptitude and deliberate inattention gross negligence and grounds for impeachment? Also remember that Bush sent 1/3 of the Louisiana National Guard to Iraq, and they weren't there to protect their state. This was an example of maladministration. Dick Cheney lied to Congress and we the people about Iraq's nuclear threat. He also supported the imperial president. And he loves torture. Cheney also never divested himself of his financial ties and holdings to Halliburton. These were blatant conflicts of interest. Condoleezza Rice was ripe for impeachment, as was Donald Rumsfeld. And mind you, none of these were punished. Once the truth comes out, maybe some Republicans who actually believe in the party, above all, might grow a statesman's spine and actually look at the political and other crimes committed by those unchristian neocons and get 2/3 to convict. Well, that never happened. The end.
Hi, this is William Morrow. Are you one of those people who join a health club, and after they have your big, overpriced annual membership, you notice that you're on your own with little or no results even after all the promises? Then the website Personal Trainer is for you.
Thank you very much, William H. Morrow III.
So you lost another argument with a conservative, right-wing Republican. He talked over you. He screamed and yelled. He brought out the Bible. He thumped it. He quoted scripture to you. You were lost because you came at him with facts. Nothing but facts. And you expected that would make you look good, that would make you win the argument, but it didn't. You know why you lost the argument? You know why you're going to lose your next argument? Because you don't read Censored. Censored, the 30-year-old newsletter that shows you how to defeat a conservative. Read Censored, and you'll have all the ammunition you need. Every time you get into an argument with a right-wing conservative, so-called Christian. Censored. That's all you need. Read it and defeat a conservative.
Greetings, listeners. Let me speak to you for a moment about the foundation of our entire organization, Newsletters Censored. It was founded by our mentor, the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, in 1977. It discusses the 5 taboos of American life: politics, religion, health, human sexuality, and child rearing. You won't find anything like this in the mainstream media and the press. It reveals the kind of truth that most people are afraid to hear. Can you handle it? We are living in the end times, so in order to defeat a conservative and save America, you need Newsletter Censored. Go to www.newslettercensored.com, click on the printable order form page, and with your gift to support this work, get your free annual subscription. This is James P. Madonna of Megalife 21, the hardest hitting internet talk radio station on the planet.